So Operation Fortress will be a combined military operation. It will save lives, it will help the French in fulfilling their job of stopping the boats, and it will save a huge amount of money.
Over there. So a big ramping up of activity this summer. It's having results, but we are not complacent. Much more needs to be done.
As often happens in August, stopping the boats is back at the centre of the political conversation. Prime Minister Burnham and Reform leader Farage have both set out their plans to tackle channel crossings. And while their approaches are very different, there are some clear areas of overlap. Both agree tougher actions needed to stop the smuggling gangs bringing people to the UK illegally. Both also want closer cooperation with France, and both acknowledge the current system isn't working. Farage says only a reform government can stop the crossings. Today, he unveiled Operation Fortress, a plan to deploy the Royal Navy in the English Channel to intercept migrant boats and prevent crossings before they reach UK waters. He claims a reform government could end small boat arrivals within a matter of weeks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm pleased this morning to be launching Operation Fortress, which builds on Operation Restoring Justice, which Zia and I launched last year. This major crisis that Europe's facing began really in earnest in 2015. It followed the disastrous war in Libya and led to large numbers of people beginning to cross the Mediterranean in boats. I was there in the European Parliament at the time. The Commission President, Jean-Claude Juncker, saw this as an opportunity for the first time to launch the common EU refugee and asylum policy. What it meant was that if anybody set foot on EU soil, they would be allowed to stay. I warned against it, I railed against it, but of course to no avail. And that stupidity was compounded, of course, by Angela Merkel saying, anyone that wants to come, we can manage, we can accommodate you. And it's had pretty dire consequences. One only has to think about what's happened to the city of Malmo, previously a fairly peaceful port, now one of the murder and rape hotspots in the whole of Europe. And in many ways, in the run-up to the referendum in 2016, the reason that I launched that breaking point poster was to say Europe has given itself massive problems for decades to come, but we can avoid this by leaving the European Union and getting back control of our borders. Sadly, governments after 2016 were in power but never really believed in the Brexit project, and even when Brexit finally came, there was no change to our status with the ECHR. And that was why 5 years ago, single-handedly, I went out repeatedly into the English Channel, videoing, YouTubing the growing number of boats crossing the English Channel, and I made the argument that you might just as well put a sign on the White Cliffs of Dover, everyone welcome, because the chances of deportation were then, and are today, so incredibly slim. I said I believed if it wasn't stopped, that it would lead, literally, in numerical terms, to an invasion of our country. Well, under the Conservatives, 130,000 people arrived via that route. The vast majority, young males of fighting age, who willfully discard their iPhones and their passports into the English Channel at the 12-mile line. And I've been out and I've filmed that too. In the end, Boris Johnson reacted with a speech at Lid Airport announcing the Rwanda plan. But it was doomed to failure from day one because of our continuing presence as part of the European Convention on Human Rights. I have to say, the fact we've given the French over £1 billion and that their navy still escort boats from a couple of hundred yards off the beach all the way across to a 12-mile line, that is something that needs to stop. And whatever videos or pictures you see of the French police slashing boats, the fact is that the traffickers have become even smarter And in the last 3 weeks, we've seen several launches coming from as far west as Normandy. All the while, the pull factor of coming to the UK, being able to stay, all the while that pull factor is still there. It doesn't matter how much money we give the French, the boats will continue to come.
The Prime Minister, meanwhile, insisted progress is already being made. Burnham pointed to increased cooperation with France this summer and said the government's focus is on delivering practical results rather than political headlines.
The number of crossings is down by 50% this year compared with the same period in 2025. And the month we've just had, July, has been the lowest number for 6 years of people crossing. So clearly progress is being made, but we're not complacent, and it's why I am here. It's why I've come down on Sunday to see the team, to listen to what they think needs to be done, what further can be done. So we're just going to be relentless. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield, but we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs. So on every level, we've got to come at this, but crucially, increasing the enforcement activity. So there's been a doubling of enforcement officers through the National Crime Agency on the UK side of the Channel, and French specialist officers are now similarly doubled in number, working on the beaches over there. So a big ramping up of activity this summer. It's having results, but we are not complacent. Much more needs to be done.
You mentioned there about safe and legal routes. Do you want to change the tone of this debate?
We have to deal with the issue rather than play politics with the issue. Just deal with it head on, grip it, and then make the changes that will bring that reassurance to the public. The public don't like the idea that the border looks like it's not controlled. We need to bring back that control, but also we need to offer support for people who genuinely need it. It's about changing the whole approach, and slowly but surely we are putting in place those building blocks of a very different approach to this issue. It's working, but there's more to be done.
What we've seen in Ceuta in recent days, the EU will hold emergency talks next week. Of course, we're not in the EU, but would you like a seat at that table? And have you spoken to Pedro Sanchez since you first did?
I've exchanged messages with the Spanish Prime Minister, and the news from Spain is that around 98% of the people who came into Spanish territory last week have now been returned to Morocco, and there's an agreement between Spain and Morocco to that effect. So that substantially deals with the immediate issue, but of course there's a broader issue about the Schengen area and our relationship with it, and of course I would want to be in regular dialogue with the EU on those issues.
Would you like to be at those talks on Tuesday?
It's a matter for the EU as to whether or not, but our team certainly will be feeding in to those discussions.
One question on the cost of living. Petrol prices are at a record high since the war broke out in Iran. Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, when they were in government, they spoke about, warning retailers not to make excess profits out of this crisis. Do you want to go further? Can you introduce any practical policies that will actually bring down the price for people?
Well, I will keep a close eye on any profiteering through this crisis, and I would, of course, bring in measures to achieve that and not allow there to be undue profits being made out of this situation. More broadly, we need to see a de-escalation, and that's been the UK position, and we've worked hard with all sides to get an agreement, and we hope that an agreement can be reached. So that's the biggest thing that will protect people from cost of living pressures as we go into the autumn and into the winter. And we are working very, very hard on every single level to bring that about.